Hi, welcome once again. If you're watching right now, it's because you want the best for your baby. And I'm hoping that by the end of this video, you'll be able to achieve just that. Because I am going to walk you through how to not only enhance the quantity, but the quality of your breast milk. So before we get into that, I'd like to reintroduce myself. My name is Khalifa. I'm a registered dietitian and certified breastfeeding specialist. And I'm also a mommy of two. I've decided to make prenatal nutrition my focus for my career. And really, the essence of this video is why nutrition is such a passion of mine. It's really because it shows how you have so much control over your quality of life, the quality of health, and even the potential to shape the future for your little one. So let's get into it. I'm going to talk about the major macronutrients that I want you to keep in mind that have been really studied and shown to directly enhance the quantity as well as the quality of your breast milk. And then I'm going to go into the micronutrients, the real nitty gritty. So first and foremost, hydration and water is key. It is, let's say, the cornerstone of your breastfeeding nutrition. And that is because you are going to really need enough water in order to establish and maintain a bountiful milk supply. So think of yourself as this nurturing oasis that needs to be hydrated in order to flourish. What you want to aim for is between 2 to 3 liters of water per day. And now that's a lot of water. I know. It's also quite a bit of a range, and it's because it has a lot to do with an individual's lifestyle, your weight, as well as your activity levels. So the more active you are, the more water you're going to need to drink. So that's kind of the simplest one that I wanted to address. Not necessarily the easiest to do, but the simplest to grasp. Okay, next, let's talk about the power of fats. Not just any fats. I'm talking about the healthy fats, more specifically, the monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fatty acids. I really don't want this to get too sciencey and too complicated. Let's just refer to them as MUFAs and PUFAs. Okay, more specifically, so we're getting a bit more detailed because there's layers to this. I want you to really focus on foods that are going to add omega-3 fatty acids to your diet. So there's a lot of hype around omega-3, and well, so because they're so important. These healthy fats are really going to play a major role in your baby's neurological development, in their brain development, their cognitive function, those types of things. And so what's really interesting is it has been found that the fat profile of a mother's diet directly mimics the fat profile in her breast milk, which means that the more healthy fats, the more omega-3s that a mom can consume within her diet, the more that's going to be found in her breast milk. So that's super special. So the foods that you are going to want to consume are the fish. So fish, you want to aim for between 2 and 3 servings of fish per week. And you also are going to want to consume things like flaxseed, chia seeds, and in terms of the MUFAs, avocados, olives, those types of things. So if those foods are not a regular part of your diet, I would highly consider taking an omega-3 supplement. So you're going to look for a good quality supplement that has at least 250 milligrams of EPA and DHA in it per capsule. So that way you'll be able to hit the 250 milligrams per day of these omega-3s. All right. So we talked about water, we talked about fats. The third macronutrient that really needs to be considered are proteins. Now, I know you've probably heard this a million times. Proteins are the building blocks for your muscles and your tissues, and that is correct. Now, the reason why we need to stress proteins when you're breastfeeding is one, they're going to be necessary for your healing and recovery after giving birth, especially if you've had a C-section. If you've had a C-section, the amount of protein that you should be consuming in a day is much more elevated because you've essentially had surgery that you need to recover from. Okay, so the specific amounts of protein that you want to aim for is between 1.2 to 1.3 grams per kilogram of your weight per day. This gets a little bit complicated. Discuss it with a registered dietitian. They will sort that all out for you. But just keep in mind the amount of proteins that you should be having in a day is elevated. Okay, so what you want to also consider is in terms of the breastfeeding aspect. Now, breast milk is so incredible. It has a range of these specific proteins that are only found in breast milk. They're not found in formula, that provide immunity to the baby. They have a protective factor to them. And so you need to feed your body with proteins in order to build these proteins and have them in your breast milk. Okay, so that's why the levels of protein for the breastfeeding women are also more elevated. Okay, so water, fats, proteins, done. We're done with the macronutrients. Actually, one last little note about the proteins. Now, because the amount of proteins that we need in the diet can be of much higher levels, it's okay to use a protein supplement. That's what they're there for. I don't want you using a protein supplement to replace protein-rich foods, but it's okay to have a supplement if you need to hit these higher amounts of protein in a day. I would caution you against collagen. I know collagen is all the rage right now. It's a trending supplement. The thing with collagen supplements is they have been found to have traces of heavy metals in them, and those can leach into breast milk and then potentially put baby more at risk. So just avoid it altogether and get a good high quality protein supplement. Okay, move on to the micronutrients. There are 3 that I want you to specifically consider in terms of enhancing the quality of your breast milk. The first is vitamin D. Now, studies have found that vitamin D, when taken in higher amounts in the diet, are found in higher amounts in your breast milk. So the reason why I want to stress vitamin D is, first of all, there is such a high level of vitamin D deficiency. The majority of people living in North America, especially in Canada, are vitamin D deficient, and unknowingly so. It's just because of where we live. So for one, there's high levels of vitamin D deficiency. 2, breast milk is generally, low in vitamin D. And so most of the times babies need to be supplemented with vitamin D drops. But science is showing that if moms can get these higher levels of vitamin D intakes in a day, that potentially the need for that vitamin D supplementation isn't so high. So for example, I want to be very clear on this. Studies have found that moms taking high doses, elevated doses, we're talking 6,000 international units of vitamin D per day, are actually able to no longer need to supplement their baby with vitamin D because they're getting enough of it through breast milk. Now, whenever you're taking these kind of higher doses, I always suggest for you to discuss it with your healthcare provider, your doctor, your registered dietitian. But for the most part, the risk of like vitamin D toxicity is rare. It really requires very high mega doses of vitamin D. So I'm not super concerned if you decide to take a daily vitamin D supplement. For example, me personally, I'm still breastfeeding and I take a daily vitamin D supplement of 1,000 international units per day. That's just my way of trying to enhance the quality of my breast milk. Okay, we talked about vitamin D. And of course, always aim for vitamin D rich foods in the diet. Like that's the first step, is making sure you're getting vitamin D rich foods in your diet and then potentially using a supplement to fill in the gaps. Okay, second micronutrient, calcium. Here's the deal with calcium. The levels of calcium in your breast milk stay the same all the time. They're constant. And so what will actually happen is that despite your intake of calcium, your levels of calcium in your breast milk is going to stay the same. So if you have insufficient intakes of calcium in the diet, your body is so incredible. It will pull your calcium stores from your tissues, from your bones, in order to maintain that level of calcium in breast milk that your baby needs. So what does that mean for the mom? Well, that means that there is a higher risk of osteoporosis, low bone density, these not so good stuff. So to avoid that, just eat calcium-rich foods. Just get your daily dose of calcium in there, okay? And it's not any higher because you're breastfeeding. It's just that your body will compensate if you're not reaching the daily recommended dose. Okay, so vitamin D, calcium. The third one is choline. Now, choline is really starting to shine nowadays. We're starting to hear more about choline. We never heard about choline in the past. It was never really talked about, but it's starting to really become more of a hot topic because they're seeing how important choline is in your baby's brain development and their cognitive function. And there are studies showing the impacts of having enough choline in terms of like baby's performance in later years. Like, it's fascinating. So I would also mention that with choline, the levels, the need of choline is significantly higher for breastfeeding women. It is the highest a woman will ever, it's the highest needs of choline that a woman will ever have in her lifetime when she's breastfeeding. So the needs are higher, and that means that there needs to be much more emphasis made on having choline rich foods. Now, the kicker here is that there aren't a lot of choline rich foods. There really isn't. Like, choline isn't found in very large amounts in most foods. There are a few key foods, though, that will provide you with your choline intake, and that's things like eggs. Eggs are probably the richest source of choline, and more specifically, it's the egg yolk. So you don't want to go for egg whites, you want to have the whole egg. And the recommendation is to have 2 eggs per day. At the very least, have 6 eggs a week. Sounds like a lot, especially if you're not into eggs, but it's not really that much. An egg a day, or an egg or 2 a day, in order to meet your choline intakes. If you're not into eggs, there are some other sources like dairy products, dairy, milk, yogurt, cheese, those types of things. And then also seafood, fish have some sources of choline in them. There are some vegetarian, like vegetables, that have choline, but again, these more vegan, vegetarian friendly options are going to have lower amounts of choline in them, which means that it's going to require a lot of that food in order to hit your choline requirements. So if you're a vegan or a vegetarian, probably worth considering taking a choline supplement. Another thing to mention with choline is that it is not often found in prenatal vitamins. I mean, more so now you're starting to see some prenatal vitamins that have choline, and they use it as like part of their marketing because it's so not uncommon. Some supplements might have very small amounts of choline, but it's nowhere the daily amounts that you would need. And so oftentimes choline is sold as like a supplement all on its own without any other nutrients. So that's that. Those are the key nutrients that you can actually modify and tailor today in order to enhance your breast milk, the quality of your breast milk. Okay. So I really hope that was helpful. If you are really keen on this topic, you're hungry for more knowledge, I have created a self-paced online course. It's called Energize and Nurture, a nutrition guide for breastfeeding moms. And it is all about this. It's all about the right postpartum nutrition. What foods to eat, what foods to avoid, what foods can potentially lower your milk supply, and what foods can you actually add to your diet to enhance your milk supply. I talk about hydration in more detail. I talk about safe postpartum weight loss, but while managing to maintain and protect your milk supply. That's a struggle that a lot of women face, is that they're ready to get back in shape, but then they're not really sure how to adjust their nutrition that in a way that it will be able to maintain their milk supply and not potentially tank it. So yeah, like lots of really interesting in-depth topics there that will fuel your breastfeeding journey. So if that's something that you are interested in, if you're a breastfeeding mom or you're pregnant and you desire to breastfeed, I highly suggest you put yourself in an advantage and go and check out that course. I will post the link in the description. All right. So I'm really excited. Stay tuned. I'll share some more videos on the channel, and I'll see you again soon. Have a lovely day.